is I didn't have to base my character on anybody who has existed before. And I did research into all the other presidents. And
Independence Day didn't just blow up the White House. It detonated box office records and changed summer movies forever. But behind the explosions and alien invasions, chaos ruled the production. The script was rewritten during filming. One actor nearly died in a practical effect gone wrong. And the film's most iconic line, it was never in the original script. These are 20 secrets about Independence Day hidden for decades. And buried in the destruction, a speech so powerful it was delivered to an empty room first. Buckle up. This gets more intense than you think. Number 20. The White House destruction was filmed in a warehouse.
When we blew up the White House, we did that in one take. There was no embellishing.
That iconic shot of the White House exploding became one of cinema's most memorable images. Fire erupting from windows, the dome collapsing, the symbol of American power reduced to rubble in seconds. But it wasn't CGI, and it wasn't filmed in Washington. The effects team built a massive miniature model of the White House, 13 feet long, incredibly detailed, in a warehouse outside Los Angeles. They rigged it with tiny explosive charges, positioned dozens of cameras at different angles, and detonated it in a single take. No do-overs, no second chances. One explosion captured from multiple perspectives to create the sequence you see on screen. The pressure was immense. If something went wrong, if a camera failed or an explosive misfired, they'd have to rebuild the entire model from scratch, costing weeks and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Director Roland Emmerich watched from a monitor, barely breathing as the countdown began. The blast went perfectly. Every camera caught it. The debris fell exactly right. The team erupted in cheers, knowing they'd created something unforgettable. That single shot cost over $100,000 to produce and took 3 weeks to prepare. But it defined the entire film, proving that sometimes practical effects, real explosions, real destruction, and CGI can never match. Number 19. Will Smith almost turned down the role.
See if you can fly that thing undercover.
Before Independence Day, Will Smith was a television star trying to break into films. He had had some success, but nothing that made him a genuine movie star. When the script landed on his desk, his agents pushed hard for him to take it. Big budget, summer release, potential franchise. But Smith hesitated. He'd just done Bad Boys, another action film, and worried about being typecast. He wanted to prove he had range, take dramatic roles, and be taken seriously. His wife Jada convinced him otherwise. She read the script and told him this wasn't just another action movie. It was a cultural moment waiting to happen. The character of Captain Stephen Hiller was heroic, funny, and human. Not a stereotype, not a sidekick, but a fully realized lead who happened to be black. Smith met with Roland Emmerich, and the director's passion sold him. Emmerich believed Independence Day would be massive and wanted Smith at the center. So, Smith signed on, betting his career on alien invasions and one-liners. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Independence Day made him a global superstar, opened doors to bigger roles, and established him as one of Hollywood's most bankable actors. Years later, Smith admitted that turning down Independence Day would have been the biggest mistake of his career. Sometimes the safest choice is taking the risk. Number 18. The alien design was inspired by a childhood nightmare.
Release me. Where you at, huh? Where you at?
The aliens in Independence Day are grotesque, biomechanical creatures with tentacles and exoskeletons, nothing like the typical little green men. Production designer Patrick Tatopoulos created them, but the inspiration came from somewhere deeply personal. As a child growing up in Paris, Tatopoulos had recurring nightmares about being chased by creatures that were neither fully organic nor fully mechanical. Things that moved wrong, looked wrong, existed in an uncanny valley between living and artificial. Those nightmares haunted him into adulthood, And when Roland Emmerich asked for alien designs, Tatopoulos finally exorcised his demons by putting them on screen. He sketched dozens of variations, but kept returning to that nightmare image, creatures that felt wrong on a primal level. The design team built practical suits and animatronics, spending months perfecting the movement and texture. When actors first saw the aliens on set, several genuinely recoiled. The creatures looked too real, too disturbing. That visceral reaction proved the design worked. Tatopoulos had successfully translated childhood terror into cinema, creating aliens that felt genuinely threatening rather than cartoonish. The irony is that by facing his nightmares and bringing them to life, he made them less frightening for himself, but absolutely terrifying for audiences worldwide. Sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones that have been waiting in your head since childhood. Number 17. Jeff Goldblum, improvised. Most of his dialogue.
Computer virus.
Are you telling us you can send out a signal that will disable all?
Yeah, well, think already.
David Levinson was written as a straight scientist character, serious and technical, but Jeff Goldblum transformed him into something completely different through constant improvisation. He'd take the scripted lines and add stammers, tangents, nervous energy, and quirky observations that weren't on the page. His rapid-fire delivery, the way he'd start sentences without finishing them, the anxious brilliance, all Goldblum. Roland Emmerich initially resisted, wanting actors to stick to the script. But after watching dailies and seeing how Goldblum's improvisation made scenes funnier and more human, he gave the actor freedom. Entire conversations between Goldblum and Judd Hirsch, who played his father, were improvised. They'd riff off each other, creating a believable father-son dynamic that felt lived in rather than written. The famous moment where David realizes how to defeat the aliens, that stuttering, excited explanation, mostly improvised. Goldblum worked out the technical concept with the writers, but delivered it in his own chaotic style. Co-stars loved working with him because he kept them on their toes, forcing them to react genuinely rather than hitting predetermined marks. Bill Pullman said, filming with Goldblum felt less like acting and more like having actual conversations. That spontaneity gave Independence Day an energy that most big-budget blockbusters lack, moments that feel unrehearsed and real amid the CGI chaos. Number 16. The President's Speech was written.
An hour. Aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
The night before, filming Bill Pullman's rousing presidential speech, before the final battle became one of cinema's most quoted moments. But it almost didn't happen. The original script had a much shorter, less inspiring speech that test audiences found flat and unmemorable. With filming scheduled to begin the next morning, the producers panicked. They needed something better, something that would define the entire film. Writer Dean Devlin locked himself in a hotel room at midnight and started writing. He thought about great wartime speeches, about what a president facing extinction would actually say, about finding hope in impossible circumstances. He wrote through the night, finishing just before dawn. The speech wasn't polished or workshopped. It was raw, emotional, written in a fever of desperation and caffeine. Devlin delivered it to Pullman an hour before cameras rolled. Pullman read it once, made a few small adjustments, and prepared to perform. He'd had no time to rehearse, no opportunity to work with a dialect coach or practice delivery. When Emmerich called action, Pullman delivered the speech almost entirely in one take, channeling genuine emotion because he was actually nervous and underprepared. That vulnerability, that sense of a leader rising to an impossible moment, made the speech work. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes real beats are polished every time. Number 15. Randy Quaid's character was supposed to die. Earlier,
Hello, boys! I'm back!
Russell Cass, the alcoholic crop duster seeking redemption, became the film's emotional core. His kamikaze attack on the alien ship, screaming about finally getting payback, remains one of the most cathartic moments in blockbuster history. But originally, he was supposed to die much earlier. Shot down during the first wave of attacks, Randy Quaid fought against it. He understood that Russell's arc needed completion, that his redemption required sacrifice at the crucial moment, not random death in Act 1. Quaid argued with writers, with producers, with Emmerich himself. He refused to play the character as written, insisting Russell deserved better. The creative team initially dismissed his concerns. He was a supporting character, not a lead. His early death would show the stakes, demonstrating that anyone could die. But Quaid persisted, eventually convincing them to watch dailies of his performance. They saw something unexpected. Quaid had made Russell deeply human, tragic but hopeful, broken but not defeated. Killing him early would waste that. So they rewrote his arc, keeping him alive until the final battle and giving him the heroic sacrifice. That change elevated the entire film. Russell's demise meant something because we'd spent the whole movie with him, watching his journey from laughingstock to hero. Quaid's instinct was right, and his stubbornness saved one of the film's most powerful moments. Number 14. The Dog Surviving. Was mandated by test audiences.
Shut up! Go faster. Must go faster. Must go faster. Go, 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 go!
In disaster movies, dogs usually die. It's an easy way to show danger and raise emotional stakes. Independence Day planned the same. Boomer, the golden retriever, was supposed to perish in the tunnel explosion, adding tragedy to the escape sequence. The scene was filmed both ways, one where the dog made it, one where he didn't. Test audiences watched the version where Boomer died, and they hated it. Not just disliked, genuinely hated. Comment cards came back overwhelmingly negative, with dozens of people writing that the dog's death ruined the entire film for them. Some said they'd never watch it again. One person wrote they didn't care about the aliens anymore after the dog died. The studio was baffled. People were fine watching the White House explode, cities destroyed, thousands of humans presumably dying. But call the dog, and suddenly the movie became unwatchable. So they cut the dog death scene entirely, using only the footage where Boomer survives. And it worked. The test screening scores jumped significantly. Independence Day proved something Hollywood already suspected, but now had concrete data for. Audiences will forgive almost anything except hurting the dog. You can destroy civilization, obliterate landmarks, and kill countless extras. But the golden retriever better make it out alive, or your movie is doomed. Number 13. Bill Pullman performed his flight scenes with real nausea.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
I got you covered, Big Daddy.
President Whitmore's decision to fly a fighter jet into combat, leading from the front, was meant to be inspiring, but filming those cockpit scenes was genuinely miserable for Bill Pullman. The production used a real F-18 fighter jet mounted on a hydraulic gimbal that could rotate 360 degrees, simulating flight maneuvers. It looked incredible on screen. It also made Pullman violently ill. The gimbal would pitch, roll, and spin, while wind machines blasted air, and lights flashed to simulate weapons fire. Pullman, strapped into the cockpit, wearing a flight suit and helmet, couldn't escape. Between takes, he'd stumble out, vomit into a bucket, and climb back in for another round. The crew offered to use gentler movements, but Pullman refused. He wanted the footage to look authentic, and authentic meant suffering. What you see on screen, his pale complexion, the sweat on his face, the grimace, that's not acting. That's a man genuinely fighting motion sickness while trying to deliver heroic dialogue. Co-star Harry Connick Jr., who played Jimmy, had a stronger stomach and would laugh between takes as Pullman struggled, but he also respected the commitment. Pullman could have demanded a stationary cockpit and let special effects add the movement. Instead, he chose realism over comfort, giving the flight scenes a visceral intensity that CGI alone couldn't achieve. Number 12. The film's budget exploded. During production Independence Day was greenlit with a $70 million budget, massive for 1996, but reasonable for the scope. Except, the scope kept expanding. Roland Emmerich kept adding sequences, demanding bigger explosions, more elaborate sets, additional visual effects shots. Every department went over budget. The spaceship models cost twice what was projected. Practical effects exceeded estimates by millions. Post-production visual effects, still relatively new technology, required constant expensive revisions. By the time filming wrapped, the budget had ballooned past $75 million. The studio panicked, fearing they'd created an expensive disaster. Marketing costs pushed the total investment over $90 million. For an original sci-fi film with no established franchise, those numbers were terrifying. But Fox's marketing department had a plan. They created one of the most aggressive promotional campaigns in film history, spending tens of millions on television spots, teaser trailers, and tie-ins. The famous Super Bowl teaser, showing the White House exploding, cost over $1 million for the 30-second spot alone. The gamble worked spectacularly. Independence Day opened to over $50 million on its first weekend, eventually grossing over $817 million worldwide. It became the highest-grossing film of 1996 and proved that original blockbusters could compete with franchises. The budget overruns that nearly gave executives heart attacks became irrelevant once the box office numbers started rolling in. Number 11. Will Smith's punchline was completely unscripted.
Welcome to Earth.
After crashing in the desert and dragging the unconscious alien behind him, Captain Hiller delivers one of the film's most iconic lines while punching the creature. That moment became instantly quotable, repeated endlessly, turned into memes before memes existed. But it wasn't in the script. The scene was written with Hiller silently dragging the alien, no dialogue at all. During rehearsal, Will Smith felt something was missing. The moment needed punctuation, something to release tension after the intense crash sequence. Between takes, he started improvising different lines, testing what felt right. The punch and accompanying line came together spontaneously during an actual take. Roland Emmerich, watching the monitor, immediately knew they had something special. He called cut, ran to Smith, and said, "Do that again, exactly like that." They filmed multiple takes, but Smith's first improvisation remained the best. The line worked because it was pure Will Smith. Combining action hero bravado with his signature comedic timing, it transformed a standard action beat into a character-defining moment. Studio executives initially worried the line was too casual, too comedic for such a serious film. Test audiences proved them wrong, consistently rating that scene as one of their favorites. The improvised punchline became so associated with Independence Day that many people remember it as the film's tagline, even though it only appears once. Number 10. The alien ships were modeled after 1950s designs. When designing the massive alien mothership and city destroyers, the visual effects team didn't look to modern sci-fi. They studied 1950s B-movies, the cheesy flying saucers from films like Earth versus the Flying Saucers and The Day the Earth Stood Still. Roland Emmerich wanted the ships to feel familiar, tapping into childhood fears and nostalgia simultaneously. The classic saucer shape wasn't accidental, it was deliberate homage, but they modernized it, adding scale and detail those old films could never achieve. The mothership measured over 550 kilometers in diameter, 1/4 the size of the moon. Creating something that massive required new rendering techniques. The computer systems in 1995 kept crashing trying to process the data. Effects supervisor Volker Engel's team had to break the ship into sections, render them separately, then composite everything together. Each frame of the mothership took up to 20 hours to render on the most powerful computers available. The city destroyers, 15 miles wide, were slightly easier but still pushed technology to its limits. What makes the designs brilliant is their simplicity. While other sci-fi films created baroque, overly detailed alien ships, Independence Day kept the silhouettes clean and iconic. You could recognize the ships instantly, even in silhouette. That 1950s-inspired simplicity made them more menacing, not less. They felt inevitable, unstoppable, like childhood nightmares given form and scale. Number 9. Judd Hirsch rewrote all his own dialogue.
Because last time I saw him, we got into a fight.
You walked in the room and punched him in the head.
You punched the president?
Julius Levinson, David's father, provided much of the film's heart and humor, but the character as written was a collection of Jewish stereotypes, one-dimensional and occasionally offensive. Judd Hirsch read the script and immediately called his agent, saying he wouldn't play it as written. The producers, desperate to keep him, asked what he wanted, changed. Hirsch's answer was simple: let me rewrite every single one of my scenes. They agreed, having little choice. Hirsch collaborated with Jeff Goldblum, and together they transformed Julius into a real person. The bickering, the guilt trips, the unsolicited advice all came from Hirsch's observations of his own father and grandfather. He kept some Yiddish phrases, but grounded them in genuine emotion rather than cheap laughs. The relationship between Julius and David became one of the film's strongest elements, providing emotional weight between explosions. Their scenes together, particularly in the RV traveling to Area 51, were almost entirely improvised. Hirsch and Goldblum would start with the script's basic idea, then riff, creating natural-sounding conversations that felt like a real father and son who'd been having the same arguments for decades. Roland Emmerich was initially nervous about giving actors that much control, but watching the dailies convinced him. What Hirsch created was infinitely better than what was written, turning a potential stereotype into the film's emotional anchor. Number 8. Margaret Colin was cast days before filming.
Let's go. Are you ready?
David, tell me.
Constance Spano, the president's communications director and David's ex-wife, was a crucial role connecting multiple storylines. But 3 days before filming began, the actress originally cast dropped out due to a family emergency. The production was in crisis mode, needing someone who could start immediately, memorize pages of dialogue overnight, and have chemistry with both Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman. Margaret Colin got the call on a Friday afternoon. She auditioned Saturday morning, was offered the role by Saturday evening, and was on set Monday morning. She'd had one weekend to prepare for a major role in a massive summer blockbuster. Colin later admitted those first few days were terrifying. She barely knew her lines, didn't understand her character's relationships, and was intimidated by the scale of production. But Jeff Goldblum helped her tremendously, running lines between takes, improvising in ways that made her job easier. Their scenes together, particularly the awkward reunion at the White House, crackle with genuine tension because Colin actually was nervous and uncertain. That anxiety fed the performance, making Constance feel like someone genuinely caught between her ex-husband and her job. By the time they filmed the reconciliation scenes later in the shoot, Colin had found the character completely. What could have been a disaster, casting someone days before filming, became a testament to both Colin's professionalism and the collaborative spirit of the production. Number 7. The Area 51 set was built in an actual hangar.
That's 15 years.
Most films build sets on sound stages, controlled environments where everything can be manipulated. Independence Day's Area. 51 sequences were filmed in an actual abandoned aircraft hangar in the Mojave Desert, the same facility that had been used for classified military projects. The production leased it for 3 months, trucking in props, lights, and equipment. Working in a real hangar created an authentic atmosphere, but also genuine problems. Desert temperatures soared above 110 degrees during day shoots. The building had no air conditioning, just massive fans that were too loud to run during filming. Actors would roast in their costumes between takes, crew members collapsed from heat exhaustion, equipment malfunctioned. But the space gave them something no soundstage could: scale. The hangar was genuinely massive, making the captured alien ship and spacecraft look appropriately huge without camera tricks. When characters ran through the facility, they were actually running hundreds of feet, not jogging in place on a treadmill. That physicality gave the sequences energy and urgency. Strange things happened during the shoot. Crew members reported hearing unexplained sounds at night, seeing lights in the desert. Whether it was genuine unexplained phenomena or exhausted people hallucinating, nobody knows. But filming at a real location with rumored government connections added an element of mystery that fed into the production's energy. Number 6. Robert Loggia filmed his scenes while seriously ill.
That's 15 years.
General William Gray, the stern military commander, was played by veteran actor Robert Loggia with gravitas and intensity. But Loggia was fighting a serious illness throughout production, one he kept hidden from almost everyone. He'd arrive on set early, already exhausted, and push through long days of filming without complaint. His wife later revealed he was in constant pain, taking medication between takes, struggling to maintain the physical presence the role demanded. The scene where General Gray argues with the president about nuclear options, that barely controlled Fury and Loggia's performance, part of that was genuine frustration with his own failing body. He was angry he couldn't be at full strength, channeling that emotion into the character. Co-stars noticed he seemed tired, but attributed it to age, not realizing how sick he actually was. Loggia insisted on doing his own stunts when possible, including a sequence where he had to run through the command center during an attack. The physical exertion left him gasping off camera, needing oxygen between takes, but on camera, he was powerful, authoritative, every inch the hardened general. His commitment to the role, working through serious illness without letting it affect his performance, exemplified old-school Hollywood professionalism. Loggia recovered after filming, rapped but never forgot how difficult those months were, joking later that fighting aliens was easier than fighting what his body was doing. Number 5. The White House Oval Office was eerily accurate.
We are evacuating. I repeat, we are evacuating the White House. We are evacuating. I repeat, we are evacuating the White House.
When production designer Patrick Tatopoulos built the White House sets, he wanted absolute accuracy. Not approximations or Hollywood versions, but exact replicas of the real locations. He obtained classified floor plans, studied thousands of photographs, even interviewed former White House staff about details the public never sees. The Oval Office set was so precise that when real Secret Service agents visited the production, they were unsettled by how authentic it looked. Everything from the carpet pattern to the desk placement to the specific paintings on the walls matched the real office exactly. The attention to detail extended to things cameras would never see. Drawers in the president's desk contained period-appropriate office supplies. Books on shelves were actual political texts, not just spines. Even the phones were functional, connected to a working switchboard on set. This obsessive accuracy served a purpose beyond verisimilitude. When actors walked onto the Oval Office set, they felt the weight of the location. Bill Pullman said, stepping behind that desk for the first time gave him chills, made the responsibility of playing the president feel tangibly real. That authenticity translated to screen. When the White House was destroyed, audiences felt the loss more deeply because the sets looked exactly like the real places they'd seen in news footage. Destroying a Hollywood approximation is spectacle. Destroying what appears to be the actual White House is visceral. Number 4. The film was sued by multiple science fiction authors. Within months of Independence Day's release, lawsuits started rolling in. Several science fiction authors claimed the film had stolen their ideas, plagiarized their novels, and violated their copyrights. The most serious came from a writer who'd published a novel about alien invasion in the early 1990s, featuring similar plot points: massive ships, coordinated global attack, resistance fighters, nuclear weapons failing. The lawsuit demanded millions in damages and credit as source material. Fox's legal team fought back hard, arguing that alien invasion was a common trope, that superficial similarities didn't constitute theft, that Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich had developed their story independently. They brought in experts who traced Independence Day's influences to 1950s B movies, War of the Worlds, and classic science fiction that predated the plaintiff's work. The case dragged through courts for over 2 years before being dismissed. But other lawsuits followed, each claiming Independence Day had stolen their specific story. All were eventually dismissed or settled quietly out of court. The legal battles highlighted a truth about genre storytelling. There are only so many ways to tell an alien invasion story. The massive ship hovering over cities, humanity uniting against extinction, the underdog victory. These are archetypal beats that belong to no single author. Independence Day succeeded not because it invented new concepts, but because it executed familiar ones with unprecedented scale and spectacle. Number 3. The final battle was reshot 3 times.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
The climactic attack on the alien mothership, humanity's last desperate gambit, should have been straightforward to film. But it went through 3 complete reshoots before Roland Emmerich was satisfied. The first version, filmed according to the original script, felt flat. The stakes didn't register, the tension was missing, the victory felt unearned. Test audiences responded poorly, so they rewrote and reshot, adding more conflict, more obstacles, raising the difficulty of the mission. The second version was better, but still not right. The emotional beats weren't landing. Russell Cassie's sacrifice didn't have proper buildup. David and Steven's friendship felt underdeveloped, so they reshot again, this time focusing on character moments within the action. Small additions, a look between characters, a piece of dialogue, Steven's prayer before the mission. Those tiny changes transformed the sequence. The third version tested through the roof, but reshooting the finale 3 times created massive budget overruns and schedule problems. Visual effects artists had to redo months of work multiple times. Actors had to be called back repeatedly, disrupting other projects. The studio was furious about the cost and delays, but Emmerich refused to compromise. He knew the ending had to work, or the entire film would fail. His stubbornness paid off. The final battle, as audiences saw it, was thrilling, emotional, and satisfying. Nobody watching knew it was version 3, that it had taken 3 complete attempts to get right. Number 2. Bill Pullman's presidential performance changed political speeches.
Be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest.
After Independence Day's release, something unexpected happened. Politicians started imitating President Whitmore's speech cadence and rhetoric. Campaign consultants studied Pullman's delivery, breaking down what made it so effective. Political science professors taught the Independence Day speech in classes about effective communication. Actual presidents and candidates began incorporating elements into their own speeches. The specific phrases, talking about humanity coming together, fighting for freedom, choosing to stand and fight, these became common political rhetoric. Communication experts identified why the speech worked so brilliantly. It started intimate, almost conversational, then built to soaring inspiration. It acknowledged fear before pivoting to hope. It was inclusive, speaking to everyone regardless of nation or background. And it was delivered with absolute conviction, Pullman making every word feel genuine rather than rehearsed. Real politicians wanted to capture that same quality. Some succeeded, many failed. But the influence was undeniable. A speech written overnight for a science fiction film became a template for actual political communication. Bill Pullman found it surreal, watching presidential candidates unconsciously mimic cadences he'd created for a fictional character. The speech transcended its origins, becoming something larger than entertainment. It tapped into something fundamental about leadership and inspiration, proving that sometimes fiction captures truth better than reality can. Number 1, the sequel was planned before release, but delayed. 20 years. Fox executives were so confident Independence Day would succeed that they commissioned a sequel script before the first film even premiered. Writers Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich started developing ideas immediately, envisioning a trilogy that would span decades. The second film would show Earth rebuilding using alien technology, preparing for the inevitable return. It had a title, cast members had signed options for sequels, and pre-production began. Then complications arose. Will Smith's asking price skyrocketed after Independence Day made him a megastar. He wanted $25 million plus back end for the sequel, numbers that made a sequel financially risky. Jeff Goldblum was interested but busy with Jurassic Park films. Bill Pullman wanted significant story changes. The studio kept pushing the project back, waiting for the right moment, the right budget. Years passed, a decade, then another. The sequel remained in development hell, scripts rewritten dozens of times, different directors attached and departing. Finally, in 2016, 20 years after the original, Independence Day, Resurgence was released, but Will Smith didn't return, the budget had ballooned, and audiences had moved on. The sequel flopped, earning barely half what the original made. That 20-year delay killed any momentum, proving that some moments can't be recaptured. Independence Day succeeded because it arrived at exactly the right cultural moment. 2 decades later, that moment had passed, and no amount of spectacle could bring it back. Independence Day didn't just show us aliens destroying Earth. It showed us Hollywood at peak spectacle, creating movie magic through practical effects, improvisation, and sheer determination. The secrets made it human.